fully qualified instructor. Well, I'm going to be taking you through my course so you can see exactly how I got on. Oh, but first of all, I've got some unfinished business to attend to. It was just 5 days ago that I found myself on the edge of the pool at the King Solomon's Palace Hotel in Eilat, where Reg Valentine, chief instructor of the London Underwater Centre, started off by showing me how to use all the basic equipment that I had to learn about before I became a diver.
Why don't you try breathing through that now?
This way up? Ooh.
That way up, that's it. Okay,
see, right.
So it's going to be as simple as breathing through a snorkel.
Yeah.
In fact, more simple, because you're not going to get so much water splashing down it.
Right.
But the principle is it's going to give you the air at the same pressure as the water you're swimming through. So when you're deep down, you just breathe normally, but you get much more air in. But what you must never do is hold your breath coming up, because then that air will expand in your lungs and you'll get something called a burst lung.
Burst lung, literally. Sounds a bit drastic.
Well, it can be. It's one of the most dangerous things, but we'll talk about that and give you a whole lecture about it later on. But just remember to just keep breathing normally, or in emergency, if you had no air, as you come up, just let the air out, just as though you're blowing it out, whistling.
Is it too late to get out of this now?
No, you're going to love every moment.
Having struggled into all the equipment, the first problem was trying to keep upright. And when Reg gave me a lead weight belt to put on top of everything else, I couldn't believe how heavy it all felt.
OK, Anneka, this is where the fun starts. Backwards down the ladder, like I did. Put your mask on, mouthpiece in, just bend at the knees and try breathing in the water.
It was strange to hear the sound of my own breathing. Ah, the system works. It's really clever, Reg. I can breathe underwater. I'll never forget how good it felt that first time we swam around the pool. Reg checked to see that I was all right by giving me the OK sign, but breathing underwater seemed the most natural thing in the world, and I was taking to it quite happily. What I couldn't get over was how freely I could move around with all that heavy equipment on. I loved that wonderful sensation of weightlessness.
Very fast when we go down underwater. In this underwater observatory, the glass is an inch thick, although we're only 8 meters underwater. When we go a little bit deeper, that you can see there, to 10 meters, we increase the pressure by a whole atmosphere. That's the pressure that we live in. To go above the surface, we've got to go to outer space to change it that much, to more or less a vacuum. But for every 10 meters underwater, we increase it by a whole atmosphere. We don't feel this because our bodies are more or less water. And with the demand valve, our lungs are kept at the same pressure as the sea. But the old helmet divers had a real problem. If they slipped off a reef shallow and fell before they could do it, the increasing pressure tended to ram the whole of their body up into the helmet, and in extreme cases would come up the tube allegedly like tomato sauce. It was a pretty terrible way to die.
Very nice, Reg. So that's why you're always drumming it into me to keep swallowing and clearing my ears the whole time.
Absolutely, because if you didn't do that, the pressure would increase, the pain would increase, and eventually you'd burst an eardrum. And you don't want that to happen because it would affect your diving and your balance, or goodness knows what.
And it's really as easy to do as that?
Well, if it doesn't work, you come up a little bit and try again. But never go down if your ear's hurt. Now, the other thing we need to know about going down under pressure is about the volumes or spaces that air takes up. So if you double the pressure from 1 atmosphere to 2...
Through the window of that observatory, I had my first glimpse of a whole new world. I couldn't wait to put all that theory and pool training into practice with my first dive in the sea the very next morning.
Right, we'll do our pre-dive check now, Anneka. Do you remember what you check?
Yes, your weight belt, so that I can get to it quickly.
Fine, I've checked yours.
Direct feed is
Connected
yep, in
fine.
Place, and your air supply is switched on.
Yes, and yours is switched on?
Yeah, that's right.
Good,
and
fine.
Basic equipment to the ready.
Good, mast fins and tube. Now, just to recap, remember that you play these two buttons, like the bagpipes, in with that one, out above you with the other, to adjust your buoyancy.
That's right, yes.
Okay, what we're going to do in the way of exercises, we'll kneel on the bottom and then do a controlled buoyant ascent very slowly to the top and back again. I'll do it first. And the second exercise is swimming through the mid-water, adjusting your buoyancy so that you're always in the middle. You'll lose brownie points if I find you at the top or at the bottom. Okay?
Righto.
Okay, mask on. Mouthpiece is in.
As we settled on the bottom, we began the familiar routine of exercises that I'd learnt in the pool. We were able to communicate using a series of simple hand signals, and Reg demonstrated by example exactly what he wanted me to do. Though it was my first dive in the sea, my initial fears soon disappeared and I began to relax and really enjoy my new surroundings. Reg seemed quite pleased with my progress, and I was glad to find that all that equipment that had felt so strange was actually starting to feel quite comfortable. As the dive progressed, I was growing much more confident underwater and was really feeling the benefit of all Reg's training. It was exhilarating swimming in the water without the walls of the pool to confine me. I was amazed by the extraordinary variety of life in the Red Sea. Each fish so exquisitely marked. breathtakingly beautiful. Such delicate beauty, bristling with poison. The stonefish, armed with deadly venom, the most dangerous fish in the sea. We'd been travelling south through the Sinai Desert since dawn. The temperature was soaring into the hundreds. We were bound for Sharm el-Sheikh, deep in the heart of the Red Sea, some 350 miles south of Eilat. We'd watched the mood of the desert mountains change as we neared the coast. It was strange that the barren wastelands of the Sinai should end in rich walls of coral at the edge of the Red Sea.
Alex and tomorrow.
Hello, Anneka.
Hi, I'm Skipper. Adrian. Skipper, Adrian. You know Reg, don't you?
Yeah, Reg, how long time ago?
Come down. Good, yeah. Please come forward.
It was quite a journey, that.
Although it was quite a relief to arrive on board the Lady Jenny, I was quite apprehensive about what lay ahead, and I was beginning to wonder what I'd let myself in for. Then I learnt there was a group of French diving doctors already installed on the boat. I just hoped they weren't there for my benefit.
Is that the point Adrian was mentioning?
Yeah, that's the point of Ras Mohammed. We'll be diving there, certainly.
I must say,
Lovely
it's
dive.
quite daunting suddenly being on a boat, Reg. Is it going to be very
You'll find it
different?
so easy, Annie.
God.
There's plenty of room to change, a ladder, everything. You're going to love it. It's much easier than going in from the beach.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
What is daunting is just going out into the sea and you just don't know anything about what's around you.
Well, this is where it's all going to happen, and you'll love every moment.
first dive from the Lady Jenny was unforgettable. Swimming through this enchanted forest of coral, I knew that everything around me was not as it seemed. Giant boulders were rocks of living coral. Plant-like shrubs and ferns were really colonies of tiny animals. Delicate branches of stone that deliver a fiery sting. Soft corals of extravagant colour, all concealing a million hungry mouths reaching out into the water to feed. It was a measure of my confidence in Reg that I felt quite happy completely removing my mask. It's amazing that just a little blast of air through your nose can drive out all that water. Reg then gave me the out of air sign, which was the signal for me to share my air supply with him. As we rose to the surface, I remembered how important it was to breathe out all the way up. Reg's lecture on burst lung had made a lasting impression on me.
You two? Have a good time?
Terrific. That's
Tremendous.
fantastic. I can hardly stand up.
Great. Okay then, Anneka, can you tell me what your dive profile was?
I've forgotten. How long were we down?
We're down 9:10, 35 minutes bottom time, 40 minutes duration, 9 metres.
9 metres.
Yeah.
Just what I said without moving my lips. Coffee.
Sure thing.
Right, let's go.
At the time, I didn't realise the significance of Tamara's questions. That afternoon, though, Reg explained to me the importance of dive planning. It's crucial to know precisely how deep you're going to dive and for how long. Otherwise, you run the risk of decompression sickness, better known as the bends. On the surface, our bodies can cope with the amount of nitrogen we breathe in the air. But once you start breathing compressed air under pressure, this larger dose of nitrogen starts dissolving into the blood and fatty tissues. Fortunately, there are decompression tables that tell you exactly how long you can dive safely at any depth, so that you avoid the nitrogen forming bubbles in your blood on the way back to the surface.
Well, now you know all about tables, Annie. That's the story.
It's terrifying. It's like getting a degree in physiology or something, Reg.
Well, if they'd been invented 200 years earlier, a lot more people would have lived.
Is that really true?
Well, before that, the helmet divers, they actually said, when the water is cold and murky, my dear, you will suffer from the bends. And they really believed that. And then this Frenchman came along called Paul Bert, a doctor, and he said, no, it is due to the nitrogen dissolving in the blood that formed the decompression sickness, and he was quite right. But of course he didn't tell the helmet divers about it.
Good old Paul. That was a touch of the German accent, I think, sneaked in there. Never mind.
Anyway, what do you feel about a night dive?
You must be joking. The only diving I'm going to do is straight into bed tonight. Morning, Reg.
Hello, Annie.
I thought I heard the engine
Coffee,
moving.
great.
About 5 o'clock this morning. Where are we? This is stunning.
This is one of the magic places. This is Ras Mohammed, one of the best dives in the world.
The water is so incredibly clear.
Yeah, beautiful here. It's always beautiful here. The bottom just drops out of the ocean, you know. It's beautiful. It goes straight down. First part is to about 50 meters, and then in jumps and slopes down to about 3,000 feet. And that means that all the way down the wall, you've got the most fantastic corals, 1 million animals that look like plants. It is not a place where you should be without an experienced diver, certainly not at your standard. And it's not a place where you should be deeper than me, ever, so remember that. And you should keep your eye on me. And just to emphasize that, we're going to do the last exercise of your course here, the rescue. And I'm not going to tell you when I'm going to do it, so I'm going to just suddenly need rescuing.
Having got Reg to the surface by letting air into his jacket, I had to try reviving him with a kiss of life.
Very well. Very good indeed.
Passed?
Blow in my nose and I'll follow you forever.
I feel I know your nose quite intimately. It's not a
Yes,
pretty
you have.
sight.
You passed.
Have I really?
Yeah.
So is that all the training done?
Just the oral to come.
Can we do that today?
Yeah, okay.
Can we?
Yep.
Tonight?
Right.
You're off.
Shall we get some loose gear up now?
Okay.
And if you're too stiff off, I'll pass it to you. Okay?
Hello, Alex.
Hello, my darling. How are you? Let's give it a hand.
Dans mon petit.
Tiens.
Where's all my little canards? Ok, mes petits canards, on va derrière le récif là-bas. On descend jusqu'à à peu près 40. Oui, on reste là tranquillement, 10 minutes. Après ça, on remonte jusqu'à 10 mètres derrière le deuxième récif ici.
What should your normal rate of ascent from a dive be?
15
what?
meters a minute.
Right. Now let's suppose you're out of sight of the reef or anything. How on earth would you guess what 15 meters a minute look like?
Well, you must never ascend quicker than the small bubbles.
Yeah, small bubbles, the little ones that wiggle up like that. How would you signal I've got no air at all?
If you had no air at all, you'd make the chopping motion.
That's right, like being chopped off at the throat. Now let's think about something else. Burst lung, that sounds a pretty terrible thing to suffer from. Why would you suffer from a burst lung, for goodness sake?
Burst lung is if you ascend and you hold your breath at the same time, you're not letting the air out.
That's right. We'll start dealing with the question of deeper diving now, Annie. What are the effects of nitrogen narcosis?
Probably the same sort of symptoms as most of these people on the boat have at about 9 o'clock in the evening, drunk and disorderly.
You're not far wrong there.
No, seriously though, you would have the same sort of symptoms as if you were drunk, which is drowsiness and
confusion. Yeah.
En allant pêcher le hareng, les poils de mon cul seront au vent, et les morbillons grimperont dedans. Aux appétits de pêcher la sardine, allons à l'Orient pêcher le hareng.
Quiet, everybody, please. That's a bit harsh. Keep the noise down over there, please. We've got some very good news this evening. Reg has told me that Anneka, who's been training with him, has at last passed her novice award. And in the time-honoured tradition of this vessel, we would like also to make our own award.
Alex and I were insignificant specks against this gigantic buttress of coral. It was quite unnerving swimming over the dark blue abyss which fell away some 3,000 feet beneath us. everything was tinged with the transparent blue of the sea. The vivid colours of the coral only sprang to life when caught in the beam of our torches.
Did you remember your bottom times?
Yes, I got that right for once. Tomorrow was very impressed. Actually, I'm just filling in the old log. Should I carry on doing this even when I finish my novice training?
Logbooks are very important. I mean, dives like this you may never do again. But of course, in your sport diver course, I shall move some of those dives across into your blue logbook as qualifying dives.
Oh, really? Will some of them qualify?
Yeah. Okay. So it's important that you note down everything you've done.
Right.
And then in the future you can get a big logbook, stick photos in, and it becomes a souvenir and a sort of general interest record.
Oh, great. So that, like, we're off to do our night dive, will that be part of my sport diver course, the next course?
Could well be. You know, I'll consider it.
Will you, Reg?
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I'll get filling in then. Excuse me.
Okay.
With an ingeniously waterproof book, I was able to identify all the fish around me. The funny thing was, they seemed to be as interested in the book as I was. Little did I know that lurking around behind me all this while was a character who was just biding his time. I'd be seeing more of him later.
And Chantal came up after 40,
yes,
right?
Oh, yeah. We go to the water at
1:45.
1:45. Yes, okay. 1:45.
You all know what groups you're in. Reg is diving with Rebecca and Ray, and the rest of you are diving in your pairs as usual. Just to remind everybody though, there are things that do bites and sting around the reef at night. And you need to be very careful where you put your hands and where you sit or where you put your knees. Don't start grabbing out into the darkness because you don't really know what you're going to grab. So let's get into the water and enjoy ourselves, shall we? Okay? You're nice.
I'm ready.
Good.
Okay, froggies are ready.
Actually.
I can tell you it took quite a lot of nerve making that leap into the darkness. waters were strangely deserted. Everything seemed to have vanished. Then suddenly, a tiny squid swam into the light of my torch. All the fish that I'd seen in the daytime were now sheltering between shelves of coral, fast asleep. The reef was like a giant dormitory. Only this surgeonfish seemed disturbed by our torches. In his dazed state, I was able to examine the scalpel-like blades on his tail. Night diving is a great opportunity to get a closer look at some of these reef fishes. They can be so elusive in the daytime. But this is one creature that only comes out at night, I'm glad to say. With tiny sacs of poison at the end of each quill, the grapefruit urchin can be quite a hazard to an unwary diver. As can this lionfish prowling near us. Then out of the darkness came a rare and beautiful sight. In a blaze of colour, a Spanish dancer undulated past us.
That really was one of life's more interesting experiences, I think I can say.
It's very good.
Oh, I feel that was a sense of achievement. Thanks very much indeed.
It's good.
I suppose we can go and have a drink now.
I knew that Alex and Tamara were definitely up to something on this dive. For some reason, Alex insisted on bringing his camera, and Tamara made sure I was wearing gloves. What was going on? Looming over me was one of the largest fish I'd ever seen. He was definitely after something. This was bizarre. A fish with an appetite for boiled eggs? Before I knew what was happening, I felt the egg ripped out of my hand, and all that was left was a cloud of broken eggshell. I didn't even see it happen. Alex was already lining up on the next shot. I had a nasty feeling he was waiting for the sight of blood. I was going to give it another go, but this time I didn't take my eyes off him. I kept my fingers well out of the way. That dive with the Napoleon wrasse was an unforgettable experience. Mind you, the whole week has been unforgettable. It's amazing to think that it was just 5 days ago that I made my first stumbling attempts at becoming a diver. Progressed, I began to realize that scuba diving is more than just a sport. It's provided me with an ideal vehicle to explore a whole new world that I might never have known. It was really special to set off with Reg on our final dive together. After 5 days of training, I was no longer his pupil, but the qualified diver he'd helped me become.
Next Saturday at 1:40, Anneka will be learning to sail. And don't forget that at 6:45 tonight, she'll be presiding over the finals of combat.